Panthers lose again. They're 1-7. This time it was a 28-14 loss in Denver. Julian Council from Locked On Panthers joining me. Julian, we'll get to the defense and the coaching, but statistically, based on ESPN's ratings metrics, this was Bryce Young's best start this year. Did he help himself or hurt himself for his future in Carolina and Denver?
I don't think he helped himself. I also don't really think he hurt himself, Nick. It looked a lot like it did week 1 and week 2 for the most part in this game. But then you look at the end of it, they were throwing the ball down the field. He had some nice throws to Xavier Legette and to Jalen Coker. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. They were able to move the ball down the field at the end, but that was also all in garbage time. And it left me just a little confused. Was the play calling throughout the day, aside from the opening drive, just throw a bunch of short stuff and hope for the best? Or was it what we saw at the end of this game where Bryce Young looked more capable? I don't think he necessarily helped himself. I also don't think he necessarily hurt himself. I don't think really he's gained any more or any less belief in the head coach, Dave Canales, who I truly don't think buys into Bryce being the best option for this team at quarterback when Andy Dalton is healthy.
Yeah, Canales after the game, non-committal this Sunday about who the starting quarterback would be next week. He basically said we got to look at all the information and see how Dalton's thumb is. Now, assuming Dalton recovers fairly quickly, I mean, he could have been the backup this week. Would Bryce Young get the next shot in Carolina against the Saints next week?
We'll see. I think that the only reason Bryce Young played, no, I don't think, I know. The only reason Bryce Young played this week is because Andy Dalton was in that car accident. And thank God he and his family were okay aside from the right thumb sprain, which kept him out of practice this week and out of this game. But aside from that, Andy Dalton was prepared to start. We heard from Dave Canales on Monday. I think it was Steve Reed of the Associated Press who asked him multiple times about, is it in the best interest of the franchise to see Bryce Young play another opportunity, get another opportunity this season? And Dave Canales sat there and said it's about Andy Dalton and it's about the team. And he wasn't really focused on that and hypotheticals, whether Bryce Young would come back out there. And then on Wednesday, we're hearing about how he's excited to see Bryce when 2 days earlier, he didn't seem to want to see Bryce at all. So I guess if Andy's not ready to go next week, we'll see Bryce Young again. I don't know if it does them much good to give Jack Plummer an opportunity. I also don't really think it gives the organization much good to give Andy Dalton sitting here at 1-7 the keys to the rest of the year at quarterback when they should still be trying to find out whether Bryce Young is a salvageable asset. But I think at this point in time, kind of the way I felt after they decided to bench him, that it's over for Bryce in Carolina. He may start a couple more games. He may get in a couple more looks. But as far as everything we've seen and kind of how Dave Canales has gone about it, both from his actions and his words, it seems like he's over the #1 overall pick, Bryce Young, being anywhere near his franchise quarterback here in Carolina moving forward past this season.
With all of that going on, is it hard for you right now to judge Dave Canales as a head coach in the NFL 8 games into his tenure? Or have you started to make some real judgments on the rookie head coach yet?
I feel like yes and no. Like, it's hard because I never had expectations of this being a good team this year. I did not think this was going to be a playoff team in Carolina. The hope, at least for me coming into it as someone who covers and talks about them every day, was they could triple their win total from a year ago, win 6 games. I don't even know if that's possible at this point in time. So as far as the expectations I have through 8 games this season, he's not, and his team has not lived close up to that at all. They have been thoroughly destroyed in a couple of these games. Look at Washington, 40-7. I mean, this game was not close. Sean Payton was showing them no respect with the fake field goal and the double pass late in that game. You back to the first 2 weeks, they didn't look great. But even when Andy Dalton's been out there, they had the stinker, like the Commanders game, like the Bears game, and Canales is the one calling plays. And functionally, they have looked better as far as the operation of Andy than they have looked with Bryce, but it's not like they've been immune to some of the poor performances we've seen in some of those games when Dalton's been out there. And as long as Canales is calling the plays, he's the one making the decision of whether Bryce Young's going to be the quarterback or Andy Dalton's going to be the quarterback. It's hard not to sit here and judge him in the way that he's gone about things so far this season. And it leaves me not being all that impressed. But again, it's only been 8 games, still plenty of time, you would think, but David Tepper is the owner of Carolina Panthers, so you never know. Plenty of time for Dave Canales to put his stamp on this organization. But through 8 games so far, the way his offense has played, the way the quarterback situation has been handled, I haven't been all that impressed by the first-year head coach.
Speaking of not all that impressed, what do you even take from this defensive performance? I mean, we know how many guys are not even playing right now. How much stock do you even put into how the defense is playing? It basically just feels like they are a get-right or get-your-career game kind of defense.
Yeah, Bo Nix looked really good today after kind of a slow start in the first 2 series where they were able to punch out the ball. And if you told me before this, they were going to have 2 takeaways defensively, I would have given the Panthers a decent chance to be within a touchdown. I'm not going to say win, but at least be within a 1-score game. Mind you, they have yet to play a 1-score game so far this season in a league full of them. The Panthers have not played a single one of them so far this year. And you get A'Shawn Robinson back. I thought Josie Julian's return after missing the last couple of weeks, he looked good in this game. And, of course, they lose Nick Scott, Damani Richardson, the rookie. He had an opportunity. I still feel like this is a unit that has been just ravaged by injuries. They're also a unit that I think overall does not have the kind of talent to expect this to be a high-level defense. I expected them to struggle heading into the year. I did not think that they would be this bad, but when you lose Derek Brown and you lose Shaq Thompson and you have multiple other guys miss time, this is kind of what you get. You get guys like Bo Nix having career days, Marcus Mariota having career days, and this being a constant every single week. Now, the good thing is they didn't give up 30 points this week, so that, I guess, is improvement.
Julian, the trade deadline is November 5th. Who is not on the Panthers trade block at this point?
I would hope J.C. Horn wouldn't be on the trade block. He probably is their most valuable asset if you want to talk about the players that way. They could probably fetch, I would think, first, maybe second-round pick for J.C. as there's still the fifth-year option that he has to play on next year. And that would give a team that acquires him an opportunity to re-sign and not do it instantly. I don't know if Bryce Young should be on the trade block right now. I don't know what good that does this team to trade him. Now, if they're going to go back to Andy Dalton and not go back to Young, then maybe go ahead and make it happen now instead of after the season. I think they should be in the mode of trying to hope and see what he has for the rest of the year in these next 9 games. I think those are 2 guys, just looking at who's healthy right now, that shouldn't be on the trade block as we approach that deadline in, 8-9 days' time.
Yeah, so do you think Deontay Johnson's lack of availability in Denver was due to a potential trade? Because he was down from 3 injuries that he played with last week to just the one, the oblique, basically, and he didn't play. I mean, it was almost like a healthy scratch. Do you think that had anything to do with it? And how do you think this franchise should balance wanting to re-sign him, but also knowing what they could get for him?
Well, we have to understand, too, that it's a 2-way street. The player also has to decide whether he wants to re-sign, and he has not played nearly to the level where the Panthers are going to do the franchise tag. That would pay him like $22 million. So that's not an option. He either gets re-signed by Carolina or he walks somewhere else if they don't decide to trade him right now. The team's 1-7. They don't know who the quarterback's going to be next year. He doesn't know who the quarterback's going to be next year. And I don't think his experience at Carolina so far has been the one that he would have hoped for as far as how the team has performed. So does that seem to you to be someone who would want to re-sign? So if that's the case, yeah, you don't want to give him away for nothing, but there's still some receiver-needy teams out there. We've seen some deals, Amari Cooper being traded. We've seen Nuke Hopkins leaving a struggling Titans team as well. We've seen those happen, and I feel like it would make sense for Carolina if they can to find a deal for Deontay Johnson. I do think that the injury that popped up this week was a little bit of also a healthy scratch, and then I wonder the same for Adam Thielen, who has not been activated off of IR after returning to practice this week. Would they want to try to find a team out there who's interested, as there are teams that are still going to be interested in those 2 guys. And I think Johnson probably, just looking at some of the reporting from guys like Adam Schefter, is at the top of the list of receivers who could possibly, be shipped off this week or by the deadline next week.
Dave Canales raves about Chuba Hubbard, and he fits into what Dave Canales says he wants to do, and that is be a run-first team. Is Chuba Hubbard on this team past the trade deadline?
I wouldn't sit here and argue against it. Like, they're 1-7. What's the point of keeping Chuba Hubbard around for the rest of the year when you have a guy like Jonathan Brooks who really is your future? Like, Miles Sanders would be the back, I would think, just based off of his role and with Jonathan Brooks coming back, and they could keep Chuba Hubbard around. But there's not a single player on this roster, especially, like, there are a couple guys like we talked about. I mean, really, Jason Horns is really the only one who's like, okay, you don't want to move around off of this dude, knowing just how it's a pass-happy league, and he's a really good player at corner, and he can take away that one side of the field. You don't want to let him go. But everyone else, it's pretty open because this is not a great roster. I don't think a lot of teams looking around even at some of the guys that would be available and wanting to give the Panthers that much for them anyway. So Hubbard, been pretty good so far this year. Didn't have much to do against Denver. I don't see that being a big issue if they want to move off of him and they can get something for him. I just don't know what acquiring team is going to trade for a running back, because that's not literally the difference between winning and losing games in the NFL nowadays.
Julian, you might hate this, but we're not trading you, buddy. You're sticking around. You're sticking it out with us.
No, I don't get to go to Kansas City.
Sorry, man. They don't need you anymore.